look at me too long to know that I'm tangata tiriti, not tangata whenua. So I don't have a longa, I don't have an arm. I do whakatapa to a bunch of English, Irish and Scottish criminals. We must be clever criminals because they got to New Zealand rather than Australia. Although, when I look at one of them from Wicklow and Ireland, maybe he wasn't so clever. He came out on a boat with a family that had 3 daughters, and somehow all 3 daughters were impregnated by him. So there may be a salutary lesson in that. I'm not quite sure what it is. But, now, I'm talking about brain injury, and I do need to find the thing that makes this go. And I'm really, hopefully, not going to delve too much into deep and meaningful science and use long words, which I'm told I have a bad habit of doing. And then I fail to recognise a particular place, and I shut the hell up and go away. I don't see it. So, just. I'm apparently not turned on, I'm just shouting. Right. Yeehaw. Now, it's gone backwards. The green one. Now, I pushed the green one. I pushed that green one. There are 2 green ones. There's a big green one I didn't see. I was only looking at the 2 little green ones. Yes, and you wonder why I'm doing research. Now, some facts. 0.79% of New Zealanders have a traumatic brain injury every year. That's from the Bionic study, from a Waikato study. It's the AUT group have the best epidemiological study in the world. They collect a massive amount of data from the Waikato cohort about 12 or 13 years ago, and they've followed through. They got a lot of extra ones that other people don't get, so their numbers are higher, but they still missed an awful lot. This is an underestimate. It's like the iceberg. It's maybe not quite as significant a difference as the iceberg, but it's still a significant underestimate. When I was in Rotorua a lot of years ago, I looked at the figures of the A&E department for approximately a year, and that showed about 1% of the population annually present with a brain injury, and even allowing for that, there are an awful lot who don't present. So most cases of brain injury are defined as mild, and there are a set of criteria, which I'm going to show you are absolute rubbish, but they are set up and used and defined statistically and in ways that don't define the person. Now, fact, mild injury, by definition, does not mean a mild outcome. Far from it. Another fact, you don't need to hit your head to have a brain injury. How many people have followed A.J. Hackett's career over the years since he first jumped over the Kawara Bridge? No, it wasn't. Sorry, it's the one opposite the vineyard just coming into, doesn't matter, you know where it is. And how many people have listened to him speak in recent years compared with way back? And how many hundreds or thousands of bungee jumps has he done? Don't tell me that hasn't done something to his brain. You think of the deceleration forces. Another fact, there's an awful lot of research that focuses on sport. And that's great. Sport has become the poster boy for brain injury. Yeah, we all know about NFL footballers who have killed themselves and donated their brains to science and have been diagnosed with chronic traumatic encephalopathy. I think there's an awful lot of that research is rubbish because it doesn't take into account a whole host of other pathologies, but nevertheless, it's important. But you look at the data from sports research, And there's some stuff that's absolutely fantastic. It's really good. It's brilliant science. And then you look at a whole lot of other data from sports research, and it's as if the paper was written by the advertising company for the sports organisation. They're apologists for things that we know exist in a real way. Now, another fact, we tend to think of brain injury as when the car hits the tree, when you fall out of the plane and hit the ground, or you come off the jungle gym, or someone punches you in the head. Now, yes, that does damage the brain. There are forces that are applied to the brain, and there are shearing forces, so you can split between the grey matter, the cells on the outside, and the white matter on the inside, which are different densities, and they rotate at a different force. That tears fibres. You can have bleeds. Bone can be broken and pushed into the brain. But that's only one aspect, because, while there are primary injuries, there are also secondary injuries. So when you have that impact, it puts into play a whole host of other secondary pathological processes that involve things like, you've heard about the blood-brain barrier breaking down, you've heard about other things happening, and most prominent of these is inflammation. We tend to think of the brain as made up of neurons, somewhere between 86 and 100 billion neurons, each of which links with something like 10,000 others. So we've got somewhere in the region of 10 to the power of 13 connections in our brain. 1 with 13 noughts after. If you excuse the pun, it's almost too big a number to get your head around. But neuroinflammation arises when microglia, the brain's immune cells, a bit like our circulating white cells in our bloodstream, become activated. And that's good, because if you injure your brain and you create gunge and junk and stuff that you want to get rid of, you have to activate to get rid of that. But then those cells are supposed to switch off and dampen the inflammation down. Just as you cut your skin, it goes red, it swells, you may get a bit of pus, then it heals, the whole thing dampens down. Now that doesn't happen to anyone. We've got evidence that some of those inflammatory changes from post-mortem data are still going on 20 years after the original injuring event. So some of that stuff, like the CTE stuff with sports people, might not be due to that protein tau building up. I mean, that's going to happen. That's part of the structure, the skeleton of axons, nerve fibres. That breaks down. Of course, it's going to be tau sitting in your brain, but the inflammation is going to damage it. And I've got some wonderful pictures sitting on my computer of microglia, those cells, chewing up dendrites, which are the receiving bit of connections in the brain. So you lose connections. Brain injury is a disorder of loss of connections. And it's one of the things you saw, those wonderful pictures that Paul put up yesterday, where the brain was white, it wasn't black. I won't ask Davidson if he's here to answer the question. Paul's very mean, I thought. But that tells us something about inflammation. We have this tool now, this technique for measuring this, and the rest of the world hasn't had it, they're getting it. Now, what about all the ones that are missed? We know that kids fall off things. They can be assaulted, they're hit, dad's pissed, he swings out without thinking, or you're just playing with your kid and swing around, oh, whoops, that was the corner of the table that got in the way. I think of the near misses when my kids were little. The near drowning events, you fall into the pool, you do all these things, you pull them out, you have a hypoxic injury. We saw what that did to the brain yesterday with Paul. What about teenagers? Most of us are beyond that. I'm sure if we're honest with ourselves, we can remember that we were impulsive, we took risks, we thought we were bulletproof, and we did a whole truckload of stupid things Anyone who denies that's telling fibs. I won't believe anything else. What about intimate partner violence? This is a biggie. If you look at the good Western world data in New Zealand matches this, 30 to 35% of women are the victims of intimate partner violence. It's a massive number. The interesting figure is that there are as many women who are perpetrators as there are men. It's just that women do different things to us. Like, we blokes just get stupid and we're thoughtless and pretty primitive and we just hit out, where especially if we've had a few beers too many. Women tend to stab the blokes or use words to attack, but 75% of the women who are victims of intimate partner violence have had at least one brain injury. 44% have had several brain injuries. Now, the problem with that, in comparing the two decent databases in New Zealand, is one says 87%, the other says 94%, don't notify anyone. This is the lives that they got used to. This is what they just have to suck up and put up with and get on with it. And you look at those figures, you look at the population, kind of drives the sporting data, the rugby injuries and those things into insignificance, doesn't it? Yeah, it's a massive, massive unmet thing. What about the elderly? Well, we know that all of us, and I'm definably elderly now, have reduced perceptual skills. Our reaction times are slower. Our balance ain't quite as good, and that's why it's useful to just stand on one leg while you're doing your teeth and in the mornings and afternoons or things like that, just to practice that. They have more medications and more side effects. They have less brain protections. Their brains may be a little bit smaller, they rattle around a bit more, and they fall over more as a result. Or the bloke gets up in the middle of the night and he's got a prostate problem, so he has to push a bit harder to pee, and he reduces his blood return, and his blood pressure drops, and he falls over and bangs his head. And then you find him in the morning because he hasn't come back to bed, except you can't get into the toilet because he's lying on the floor unconscious and you can't get the door open. So another fact, brain injury causes a whole host of adverse effects. And living with that is a stress. Living with someone with a brain injury is a stress. And we know if you have a brain injury, for example, if you look at married couples or couples, if you've been together less than 7 years before the brain injury, it's not likely to survive the relationship. If you've been together greater than 7 years, it's got a much better chance of surviving. And we know that stress changes the brain. There's a whole lot of research now from the other data around PTSD, for example. You look at American soldiers who've done 4 or 5 tours of duty in Iraq and Afghanistan and have PTSD, parts of their brain, salience net, the bit that makes us jump before we know what made us jump, can shrink up to 10 to 15% because you have epigenetic changes, so you lose connections, and that causes further symptoms. I mean, there are some important facts. People tend to see neuropsychometric testing, which in New Zealand context is pretty much technician approaches because almost invariably a proper history is not taken. But that misses all the other issues because people think about cognition, but behaviour, emotions, social function, a whole range of physical symptoms get missed. 26% of people after brain injury have cold intolerance, get heat intolerance. Everyone gets tired. They get tired with mental activity because they've got to work harder to concentrate. And all these things, I could spend another whole sort of half day just talking about each of those. So what's really important to consider is that it's hei tangata, hei tangata, hei tangata. It's about people. It's not about parametric statistics. It's not about those lovely big bell curves of normal distributions in the population. It's about the person in front of you. Because every individual has their own brain injury. And every person needs to be taken as an individual with their own particular collection of issues. And what the person tells you is accurate. And ACC is busy wanting to consider that people are ripping them off. They're not. Everyone I know would give up every entitlement that they have if they could only get back to how they were before they were injured. So yeah, it's been a privilege for me to be here. It's a privilege to stand and stand on the shoulders of the giants who've gone before me. And we need to remember that if you stand on the shoulders of giants, you see further. People here are lucky they've had a fantastic and brilliant range of people. You wouldn't get a collection like this probably anywhere else in the world internationally this year. It's just magnificent, and it's great that you should have that. So thank you very much. Thank you to everyone. Most importantly, thank you to the participants who take part in the research. Thank you for this wonderful team of people I work with. Man, I'm just the dumb clinician in the team, but there are these other brilliant people who are engaged and involved, and yeah, it really is a tremendous privilege. So thank you, everyone. Yeah.